Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Please join me in welcoming our speaker today, Carrie.
Hi everybody, my name is Carrie White and I'm a recovering alcoholic. Probably a drug addict too. Since I got here drooling on myself at the Venice Methadone Clinic, walking around with a propane torch like this, and if it melted, I smoked it. That's my opening line. I want to thank Tony for asking me to share. It's so exciting to somebody still wants what I got, you know what I mean?
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
Before I got to AA, no one was saying, keep coming back. They're like, get out. They were like, not. Anyway. Well, so many things in my heart to share with everybody here. My first and favorite thing about this room is that photograph over there, or drawing, of those two people. And when I was new and came in here on a Saturday night, the guy sitting next to me says, why do they have a picture of Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon in here? It always makes me smile. Hi, guys. I'm glad everybody didn't look like them when I got here. That fan, my nose is running like I just did a whole bunch of coke. So let's see. There's so many things about Alcoholics Anonymous that, well, of course, it gave me a life. It changed my life. Tools for living, I had none. Drugs and alcohol was everything. I drank and used for as long as I could, and then I drank and used 10 years after that. Automatic pilot. And I got the group conscience, God expresses himself through the group conscience when my sponsor said, that means if 10 people tell you have a tail, you better turn around and check your ass. And I thought, oh, okay, I get it. And because, my whole life was like, no, I don't, no, I'm not, no. And then a guy named Ephraim gave me a huge sentence that was a big paradigm shift in my sobriety, and he said, you can have your excuses or you can have a life. And that was huge for me. Like all these little things that seem like nothing, are, thank you, darling. I still apply to my life today when I find myself starting to make an excuse, I love when I heard that that we have a superiority complex, laced, balanced by an inferiority complex. I related to that, better than, less than, all these things. There's just nothing that makes more sense to me in my whole life than Alcoholics Anonymous. It's like, prior to that, it was drugs and alcohol. Nothing made more sense to me. Nothing was more important to me. And you were all extras in my movie. I was talking to Molly, thank you, right before the meeting started, and it was on another subject that's not AA, but she said in AA fashion to me, who else gets to talk like this? She said, it'll happen in God's time. I know what that means. You know what I mean? I was always like trying to make everything, instant gratification was way too long for me, It was like, Really? I love all this new technology and instant and you know, I just love it. I've got ADD, it's perfect. You know, it's like perfect for me, all this stuff. I heard this comedian one time say, what if you had ADD and it was like the 1800s? You go, oh, a horse went by. You know, I'd be out of my mind. Anyway, what we wore, what happened, and what we wear now. I want to say one other thing that shifted my entire life, and that was my sponsor, Peggy, who's been my sponsor for 28 years. I want to say I'm a victory of Alcoholics Anonymous, and the love and kindness and generosity of this program and the people that are in it for nothing, for no reason. Bridget's here, but anyway, I want to say something. So Peggy said something to me. It took me 6 hospitals to get clean. I used waiting for a ride to the recovery house, waiting for a Loma to take me to the recovery house because, well, I had 20 minutes. And I knew dealers everywhere on every street, dialing for dealers. Nobody had a cell phone. Nobody had a cell phone, you know, in those days. Unless they were really fancy people and go, hello? What's that? You know, that's a phone. Wow. You know, I mean, it was just shocking. I mean, anyway, so coming down the steps of the friendly house after 3 days in scalding hot tubs, because I did use waiting from the hospital, waiting for a ride to the friendly house. And these girls, they just poured this hot, scalding hot water in this tub every minute. As soon as it got cold, then they'd get me out and they'd wrap me up, and then they'd wait for the water to heat up and put me back in this tub, so I could not feel myself. You know, so here's what Peggy said, and then I'll move along here. She said, as we walked down there, she put her arms around me. And the most profound sentence I ever heard that really was my first kind of courtship to Alcoholics Anonymous, she said, and remember, my dear, you never have to do this again. I thought, Carrie, I think she's telling you something very important here. You know what I mean? I was like a thread of a human being. My spine was sticking out further than my ass. I had 6 greasy hairs poking out of my head. What teeth were left in my mouth looked like they were made out of wood. I had been in this jumpsuit I couldn't jump out of for 6 years. Nodding out, I had cigarette burns all over it. I looked like an aerial view of Vietnam. And my fingers had dried blood around the bone from nodding out with that cigarette. I didn't think I had a good evening unless I saw that, you know. So here I am, an alcoholic. God, you did a lovely job with me, AA. Here I am, you know, 28 years later. I look 28 years younger than I did when I came in. And it's just, how could I ever pay back to Alcoholics Anonymous what has given me, what I could not foresee, what I didn't know, what was even this is all about. And it's still, the adventure continues, you know. I look forward in my life. You know, God, may you find him now. If you have a problem with God, they told me G-O-D, good orderly direction. And that made sense, you know, all these steps, all this stuff, I don't know what they were talking about. The whole world looked like spin art, looked like a Jackson Pollock painting to me when I got here. I'm an only child that grew up with a divorced alcoholic mother that I rarely ran into, rarely. I never even said that word till I got here. Rarely, like steak rare, you know, like rarely. I love that part where it says 365 consecutive days. I thought, that's an awfully big word for an alcoholic, isn't it? Like consecutive. I mean, I learned how to like speak with like any kind of class at all when I got here with this literature. I never said that word either. My bookshelves had bottles of hand-painted champagne bottles on it. I like, aren't they beautiful? Look at those bottles. I would like show everybody my bottles of whatever I had. So I'd mix drinks for my mother and her boyfriends. I started sipping drinks when I was 5. You know, I was the adolescent bartender. I'd carry this tray to my mother on the couch and her boyfriend, and if the glasses were too full, I would sip them. It was bourbon, it was 7-Up, they were warm. It was warm and sweet, it felt good. It was my connection to my mother. My mother was an artist. She'd sit at home and paint, ink and paint. She was an animator and drawer, and I would see her through that amber glass, and it was all about that amber glass. And it was all about what that was, and it felt good. I never had a problem with knowing I was an alcoholic. I'm always surprised when somebody is, oh my God, I'm an alcoholic. I'm like, well, what'd you do all day before you got here? They're like, well, I never drank before 5. I'm like, really? Well, sorry for you. You lost the whole day. I mean, so anyway, so one of these boyfriends of my mother's married her and picked us up from our little courtyard on Burton Way, and took us out to Pacoima, and all I knew is I better learn Spanish, and I did like that Pachuco hop. That looked like fun. Spin, spin, spin. And he ended up being a child molesting, beating, horrible man. And so it was safer for me to be across the tracks. I was in gangs. I was a mascot for a gang. When I was 9 years old, I was already drinking beer and smoking cigarettes, French inhaling. People say, doesn't that get you dizzy? I go, yeah, that's my favorite part. You know, I mean, it's all about that. And doing my mother's bourbon and codeine cough syrup and whatever. I was all about anesthetizing. I got it. Everything else, I don't even know what was going on or what, this, that. It was not really too important as long as I kept doing it. I became a science project right away. And one of these, I feel like I didn't use to feel good. I used to not feel bad, you know. Anyway, one of these house parties of these gangs, they're renegades, lowriders. This was when Von Dutch was really pinstriping and painting cars. I was like this little Mexican. Suki was my nickname. I wanted to pass for black, but I couldn't, so I became a Mexican. It was the best I could do over there. And so this party got busted, and the cops came into the back room where I was looking for a cigarette or something, and they said, how old are you? And I was like, I'm fine, how are you? And they said, wrong answer, you're coming with us. And so I got the message from my disease loud and clear, you better be careful, they could take this away from you. And I protected and served my disease and my using so carefully. That was my, so I knew every slogan in Alcoholics Anonymous only for a different primary purpose, My primary purpose was to get as high as possible, use, and my point was to not get arrested so I could do it again. So I had point and purpose, but thank you, Alcoholics Anonymous, for a better point and purpose, that I stay sober and, not period, and help the other alcoholic who still suffers. We're taught here that half measures avail us nothing. It's not okay to just, well, I'm staying sober. That's how we say thank you here. And it doesn't mean, and I learned how to be a better mother, sponsoring strangers, being responsible to some other kid than I could be for my own when I first got here. I had 2 little kids in junior high. And willing to go to any length, show of hands. Hello, who's in this room that didn't go to any length? You know what I mean? We didn't get here because we broke a fingernail and had a little, note from the judge. Yeah, willing to go to any length, no matter what. I drank and used no matter what. Anyway, so I got busted, and I got that message, and then I ended up in a foster home. The guy I was in a foster home for about 3 years. My mother took off in alcoholic fashion to every bar and, did the San Fernando Valley. And Bless her heart. You know, I just ended up recreating the scene of the crime and my mother. And so then she came back and picked me up and took me back to Hollywood, and here I am, the perfect Pachuco. Now I'm like in the middle of Hollywood High with my peg skirt and my stacked hair, and we used to put hairpins in our Pachuco, so we fight. We like put our fingernail, you know. Like, I bit my nails, so I was glad about that. I didn't have any. Anyway, so Pacoima, Hollywood High, I modeled for somebody. I became a hairdresser because everybody was going to college, and when they asked me what I got on my GPA, I said, I don't think I took GPA. Why? You know. And speaking of Y's, I left algebra because they wouldn't tell me what the X and the Y was. And I just said, well, I'll go where you're going. Where are you going? You know, it was like, I had no idea. I never heard the word academic. There was never a newspaper in my house. I got all my information from music. You know, and thank God for Bob Dylan. You know, she's an artist. She don't look back. You know, she never stumbles. She's got no place to fall. Okay, got it. Okay, you know, I mean, that was it for me. Audio. Reading was like, I'm dyslexic. I'm like all that stuff. So leaping ahead here. Anyway, my story's like so forever. So I modeled for somebody in beauty school who was going to beauty school when I was at Hollywood High. And so when everybody took off to colleges, I never even heard of Colorado or these places they were talking about. I mean, we just weren't global. We weren't connected. I love when somebody, our leader said, you know, oh, Sweden, oh, we're worldwide. Yeah, we're a huge network, global. So exciting. But then so are alcoholics practicing. Global, I could always find them too. So when I ended up going to beauty school, and I've been a hairdresser all my life, and I always laugh because Johnny, the bad guy, the stepfather molesting, used to beat me with a hairbrush, and I always say, thanks for the tool, Johnny. You know, now the brushes have been in my hand for 40 years. So I went to beauty school. I was on Dexedrine, and you know, I don't know how I graduated Hollywood High. I was at the Pancake House every day, you know, drinking coffee, melting those diet pills. My favorite part. And I'll clean your house and polish the rocks. What are we doing in the driveway? You know, like I'm up. My idea of a good evening was a 9-day run, just you know. The worst thing I ever heard was Donna Summer singing The Last Dance. No, not The Last Dance. What? Where are you going? What are you doing? Don't leave me. You know, little JoJo's here sitting next to me. This is a friend of my youngest daughter. You know, I had 5 children. Anyway, here. Okay. 3 husbands, 5 children before I was 29. Okay, just hang on that for a minute. I would have married more, but I just was too high. I just couldn't. I got busy. But beautiful little JoJo's here in early sobriety, and she saw me as messed up as nobody saw me, because she used to be with my daughter. Her mother went with my ex-husband. We never got a divorce, you know. We thought we did. Yeah. I don't know, we meant to. We're just separated. We were always separated. Anyway, if you're newer than, you know, whatever, it's like, you know, welcome to the Discovery Channel. I know, more shall be revealed. You hear that, like, more shall be revealed. What does that sound like? And then when I was new, this girl used to say, I peeled so many layers off the onion, I don't even recognize the vegetable, you know. I just sit there and look and listen to these old-timers talk of this stuff. Our leaders are butt-trusted servants. I still don't know what a butt-trusted servant is. Does anyone? What is a butt? Principles before personalities. I always say, yeah, dare you, I'm sure. But, you know, it taught me how to slow down when it says we're a program of attraction rather than promotion, because I spent my entire life promoting, tap dancing, spinning plates on sticks, promoting. See me, hear me, like, blah, 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 you know. It's like, oh, I could be still, you know. Now my philosophy, I know I'm jumped ahead. My philosophy is, I'm already in love. You just happen to come by, you know. It's like, I knew when I got here, I didn't want to be, it was about not being dependent on the dealer in the life. I was in a fetal position. I ended up in a fetal position. I lost everything except a breath. And I would be in a fetal position on the steps of the dealer waiting for him to let me knock on the door at 6 a.m. for a granule of dust. I don't even know what the hell I was, you know, whatever. And so when I got here, it was one of the most exciting things, and it still is exciting to get more and more independent and be loving, was to not depend on people. We always shout out, God could and would if he were sought, you know, and I always think, why aren't we shouting? Probably no human power could relieve us. Because I think it is so important. I believe that the part of the glitch of the cellularly different from our fellows, which I absolutely believe I am. I mean, please, both my parents were alcoholic. You don't plant 2 peaches and get a pineapple, you know. So welcome to those networking in the nut house. Anyway, you know, but it's all okay with me. I'm with all my favorite people, drug addicts and alcoholics. That's who I only want to be with anyway, so it's all cool with me. Is that there's a dependency. There's such a dependency. There's such a lie about, like, I'm not enough. This drink makes me better. You know, that's the cellular glitch that I think is in the cell. I'm not enough. You know, this drink makes me taller, smarter, whatever, better, fills some kind of something. So when I got here, I didn't want to be dependent on you. You know, I love that we have sponsors, that they're guides and they're not policemen and they're here to explain things and help us. We're not supposed to know how to do this. Who does? I know about 28 years. I don't know about 29. That's why I still have a sponsor. But so I didn't want to be where, like, you were my happiness. Don't leave me. Where are you going? Don't take my happiness. So I started building on my own happiness because I think that was when I look at a thread connecting all through my life, you know, I didn't have anything that was mine or that I felt whole. It was always looking for outside stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love shopping therapy. Retail therapy still kind of lights me up a little bit. But it's pretty exciting how we're taught, and some quickly and some slowly. There's some areas that, you know, I got really faster than others, and, you know, I'm still majoring in minor details. You know, I still have perfectionism. Can you all see how separated all my eyelashes are out there? You know, but that was real important to me before I got in my car and came over here. I love eyelash curlers. Okay, so all right, so I want to say something about this last week. I was here last Saturday, and it was an amazing memorial for a beautiful, beautiful woman named Chris Hicks, who was hugely influential in my early sobriety. You know, she'd get up and with her polio crutches, talk about how she was the last person to probably catch polio before SALT came in. And talk about how with her little girls, because I still had 2 little girls in my house in junior high, and how she would climb this chain link fence, drop her crutches and hold the beer cans to throw them over the fence to hide them. Any lengths that we go to protect our alcoholism. You never see a drunk say, "Take my keys, I don't think I can drive." No, we'd go the opposite insane way. We're not stupid, we're just crazy, you know, to defend our right to use, or, and I think that's because there's so much invested. I had so much invested. If I was going to throw up, I would hold my mouth. I was not letting that alcohol go. Maybe I wanted to puke, but I was not letting the alcohol go. And if my nose was bleeding, I wouldn't let it go. No, I'd clip my nose. I didn't want that cocaine to go. Whatever that it was, holding on. Anyway, she'd be talking about how she'd do all this, and I thought, God, if she wants to be here, if she wants to stay sober, it was just so impressive to me. We're such the way of the spiritual warrior. We're just so amazing. We're so courageous. And, we go to a meeting when we want to and when we don't want to. That's what I was taught in the beginning, and everything I was taught in the beginning is still the same. It still applies. It doesn't change. Halt, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. My disease lives in the workshop of those things. When I'm hungry, I get crazy. If I'm angry, I get crazy. If I'm lonely, I isolate because, I'm lonely. I don't want to go out. Oh, that's smart. And tired people sign murder confessions. If you keep them up long enough, yeah, what? Let me sign, let me sleep. Yeah, I did it, whatever. Those things still apply to me. The one thing I've ever heard in here for 28 years, bar none, a lot of people go out when they have sponsors, go to meetings, have commitments, love AA, love their life, love their family. They still one insane moment somehow. But they always say to me, I always hear, I stopped going to meetings. I don't keep coming to meetings for 28 years because, I'd rather not be listening to Pandora and doing push-ups at my house. It seems like a lot more fun. And, not really. But I can't afford the luxury to ever think I know more than Alcoholics Anonymous. Nothing comes in front of my big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Not the Holy Bible, the Course in Miracles, Otherwise, we wouldn't have Father Terry in here and Rabbi Campbell. Those things extend our spiritual path, but they do not treat alcoholism. I need to stay here when I want to, and I need to stay here when I don't want to. I need to protect my sanity. That's my only job here in Alcoholics Anonymous. Really. Not watching you. Not paying attention to your program. No gram like the program. One of my other favorites. I know I'm kind of jumping around, but, it's the 4th of July. I used to always say, have a fifth on the 4th. That was my, hence my sparkles for y'all today. So this week, see, I don't forget what I'm talking about, but even. So that was Sunday. Another grief that was going on for me is this girl that from El Salvador who's worked for me for 12 years. About a year and a half ago, her little son Christian, came in his little blue suit. He graduated Hollywood High, just like I graduated Hollywood High, and I gave him some money for grad night, and he went out and we took his little girlfriend out, and just sweet and innocent as you can possibly imagine. And then in the summer he was going to go to Washington D.C. and approach some colleges or something for soccer, I don't know what. And family was in Washington D.C. And then that didn't work out. He was kind of acting weird or something, and they brought him back, and he was at home. And then my girl kept coming in to work all cross-eyed and all exhausted. I'm like, what's going on? Oh, Christian, he's having an anxiety attack. I was in the ER at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, and this went on enough, and my assistant's been with me for 21 years, and he's sober, and we're like, Maribel, he's not having an anxiety attack at 2 in the morning. He's on drugs. Oh, no. The denial of alcoholism isn't just with the alcoholic. It's a family illness, and it kills families long before anyone dies. And so this kept going on, and then Peggy, my sponsor, she comes into my salon once a week and knows Maribel for 12 years. She's been coming to me for 27. First year, you wouldn't want me to do your hair. Anyway, God. Pretty soon it started getting really evident that that Maribel's son was really having drug problems, and we're trying to help her and trying to do, this thing. And no, the mother, no, she's going to do it her way. Finally, she says, oh yeah, well, a little marijuana or something they call it, a little marijuana. She's like taking away his computer. Take away his computer? You can take away the house. I'm going to find drugs. Take away my car, I'll walk. It doesn't. Nothing matters. And then she took the door off his bedroom. That was going to be so. Really? I don't care. I'll pee in your living room. You know what I mean? I don't care. When I got my last 3 years, I couldn't even wear underpants. They were just too complicated. I always had to pee. And so finally, it got so crazy, and we were trying to do an intervention and get him into a recovery house. It doesn't mean it works if you get somebody into a recovery house, or not, or into a treatment center. It doesn't mean it works, but it's a little more hopeful than when your mom says, don't do that. When you see somebody your age or somebody that used like you is not doing drugs for 30 days, that's like, really? I don't need somebody who never smoked to tell me it's not a good idea. How do you not smoke? Well, I don't know, I never smoked. Well, you're gonna be helpful. It's like, that's why AA is so fantastic. When I got to see a junkie wearing shorts in the summer, I'm like, how do you do that? I've been like bundled up, freezing. Anyway, so he ran away, and she went going to shelters with his picture and calling the police and calling hospitals, just like my children did for their father. When I had 5 years of sobriety, and I would come into my little kid's bedroom and they'd be on the phone, their dad was missing, who died of this disease. My third husband, the love of my life, the one I married because he used and drank so much because I thought he'd never complain about my using. And now I'm sober 5 years, and he's like going downhill racer. And I see my little girls with a paper lined through morgue. Hospitals, they've called, lined through that. Now Maribel's doing, I'm re-seeing this whole, thing again. And last week, she left work on Thursday and then called right before I was ready to walk into an AA meeting and said they found Christian, and she was crying. I'm like, well, what happened? Where is he? He was dead. 21 years old. It's a little kid I've known since he's 8 years old. Why am I here? I have no idea. Dead. And he had been dead for a year, but they couldn't find her. And she'd been running for a year trying for his son, looking for her son. And he drowned in the San Diego River, which was probably about 4 inches of water. And the worst part is, like my mother who died of this disease at 54 years old in County General Hospital, where they wrote pneumonia on her death certificate instead of alcoholism, on little Christian's death certificate, it's going to say cause of death, drowning. This is not a moral issue. Alcoholism is real, it's a disease, it's a sickness. This is not the judgment center. When it says they are not at fault in how it works, that doesn't mean when somebody goes in and out, that we start condemning them. They need more help. And if you're the person that's going in and out, you don't always get to come back. Whatever you were doing just wasn't enough, that's all. It's not like you're bad, I'm bad, we're bad. Poor little Christian, no chance, When I was new, here's another thing they used to say to me that I used to love. If you kill yourself in your first 5 years, you're killing the wrong person. So there was that. And then my dear friend Aloma last week told me about a good friend of ours from the 70s whose daughter had committed suicide, killed herself. Nobody knew she was doing coke, and she was so out of her mind on this cocaine and all this stuff. And that same That same Thursday, after I had gone to a meeting, then I was going to speak at another meeting, a 10 o'clock meeting with the young people's meeting, and I spoke, and it was called We Are Not a Glum Lot, so I was in Carrie White form of total, like, wildness. You know, they just love when they hear about the spandex pants and the roller skates in the salon and all that kind of the real roller queen here. And it was all, I was all fun and light, and then somebody raises their hand to share afterwards and gets up to speak. And this girl comes up with about 6 or 7 white pieces of sheets of paper, and I thought, oh my God, what's she gonna do, you know? And she says, my best friend killed herself. I wanna read you something from her suicide letter. I have never been in an AA meeting in 28 years to hear anybody read somebody's suicide letter. She did not read the whole 5 pages of this, but she read paragraphs from what this girl, I have never heard such brilliant writing to the disease in somebody's head, how this insidiousness of the alcoholism, how she had kept this secret, how it was so sick, and how she hated herself, and the self-loathing. She put a plastic bag on her head. This is a girl who's reading her best friend's note, who they've been friends since they were born, 6 months old. She must have been 40 or something. How old is that girl? You know that girl. It's your mother's good friend. Anyway, I thought, wow. This is so important what we do here. You know, sometimes, I can never be complacent about the importance and value we have. We are here part of the people who are really raising the level of consciousness, not just to alcoholism, but on the planet. We're safe people, generally speaking, on the road, unless we're looking at our bangs or something, you know, or having conversations with people in the car that aren't there, you know, those kind of things. But God, you know, people say, how are you? As far as I know, I'm great. You know, I mean, if something's wrong, I don't really know. My whole 28 years, I've had deaths and disappointments that have just put me on the mat, flattened out like a cross, and I'm not even believe in crosses and things like that. When I got new, I used to love that thing. Get off the cross, we need the wood. I used to like that. I just can never not be in awe of my sobriety. It is such a treasure. It allows me everything else. It allows me to complain. I always say if I'm complaining, I'm still alive. You know what I mean? People say, what are you so happy? Is it your birthday? You taking a cake? Or what? Are you the speaker? No, I'm going to an AA meeting, and you know, I'm still in my pink cloud because I still have what I came here for. Inside of me is a whole bright, shiny, huge platinum pole of sobriety. Everything else goes in and out and changes like weather. You know, and there is no bad weather. There's only inappropriate dress. You know, what was upsetting me, you know, a year ago, 5 years ago, I wanted to go out when I had like 6 months of sobriety because somebody was telling me they had to work late and they weren't coming to the Tina Turner concert with me. What? I was so upset. So my problems aren't really my problems. My opinion is my problem. My opinions of what is going on is my problem. My judgment, what I think of it. It's not you that has done anything wrong. It's my disappointment in my dream, in my whatever that I wanted, that I saw, that I projected, whatever. And lastly, in the last 2 minutes, Bridget is here. How significant the real influence of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, Dear Aloma 12-stepped me for 12 years. When, you know, like junkies read literature, you know, like small print in a mailbox. What? I just go, oh, Aloma was here last night, and I clean out my house, you know, to stuff papers and things. The big book has no pictures. It's very disappointing. You know, I'm like, Vogue or W? Vogue or Vogue W or the big book? You know. Anyway, Bridget. My 6th hospital, Bridget was a tech in that hospital. We could write a book just about that. In my 30 days in that hospital, I ran away, I came back, she snuck me a cigarette, God bless her, the kindness of strangers. But I couldn't sleep. I'd hear her, you know, in this kind of comatose state. She'd come into the room like at night to check, and I'd hear her go out and tell the nurse down the hall, I can't find her. I don't know. And then she'd say, look under the bed. Sometimes she goes under the bed. Oh, you know, under the bed. And then she'd come back. I remember one time I stood on the bed leaning next to the wall. I was going to try to sleep that way. I was like, I swear to God. I was like, she's standing on her bed leaning on the wall. You know, that's her. Oh, well, you know. Oh, I mean, they brought people from other hospitals to look at me in the bed. Do you want this to happen to you? You better get off drugs. This is the result of alcohol. No, what's he talking about? Oh, I'm good for something. Let's see, how's my hair? You know. Bridget said to me a sentence that shifted everything for me, and it was the first time I heard it. And it was about stop complaining. It was about stop complaining. God, I was like, complaining was reason to use. Complaining was fuel for the fire. If I'm mad, I can use, you know. If I'm angry, that's why it tells us resentments take us out. It's a luxury we can't afford. I'm complaining. I'm in a hospital with clean sheets, getting drugs even. And she says to me, try kicking in jail on the cement floor. It was like, you know, the soul is never loaded. It hears everything. It's all recorded. The heart gets it all. You know, it's just we ignore it or shove it away or file it or whatever that it is. And I thank you for that forever, Bridget, because you really gave me something that Alcoholics Anonymous has really upheavaled for me, and that's perspective. I did not have perspective, you know. All feelings come from a thought. And all thoughts can be changed, because I never thought I could live a day without drugs or alcohol. Thank you, Alcoholics Anonymous.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.